When Meiling opened her eyes quietly, a fishy smell of soil first came from the tip of her nose, followed by dazzling sunlight and a dazzling head. She looked down and saw that she was wearing a torn linen cloth, with a pair of straw sandals covered with mud under her feet, and a raw braised head in her hands. Surrounded by deserted fields, grass grows, and several broken thatched huts are shattering their desires in the wind. This is weather. Meiling muttered blankly, leaving her memory of working overtime until the early morning in her brain. She remembered that she had just snuggled on the desk and squinted for a while. Why did she reach this ghost place with a slight look? Before she could figure out the situation, a sharp voice suddenly popped up from the side. Hey. You finally woke up. This goddess is so impatient. Meiling was shocked and turned around and saw a small little man in the air next to her, probably the size of a palm, wearing a small green skirt, a crooked light ring on her head, and a pair of transparent small wings behind her back. She was placing her waist and staring at Meiling with a bulge. What are you? Meiling's eyes widened, and the head in her hand almost fell to the ground. What's the thing? I'm Meiling, a guardian goddess in the green wilderness. How could I be so unrestrained? The villain was so angry that his face was red and his wings were even more damaging. You are the time traveler chosen by this goddess, so I feel a little bit self-righteous. Time traveler. Meiling's brain buzzed and she understood 7 or 8 in an instant. She lowered her head and looked at her broken body, then looked at the deserted scene around her, and felt a slight in her heart. So I really were it to the strange world? Is it a slight and slutty farmer? Ahem, it's almost the same. Meiling slammed her head, her expression a little awkward. You are now a farmer from a small village on the edge of Greenland. The fields are yours and the house is yours. But, well, the situation is a bit contempt. Meiling looked in the direction of Meiling's finger and saw that the deserted fields and broken huts were far away, and she couldn't bear to see them. Her lips twitched. This is too depressing. Goddess, can't you arrange a good start for me? For example, what is the princess? Oh, the princess is not interesting. How good is Shirtion? It's fresh and vulgar. Meiling smiled and patted her breasts. Don't worry, this goddess has prepared you with golden fingers. Look at this, skill point system. As the voice fell, a translucent light curtain suddenly appeared in front of Meiling's eyes, with several lines of words on it. Name, Meiling. Corporate, farmer. Skill points, 0. Current skill, none. Task tips. By pursuing the accumulated points, you can untie agricultural skills and change your life. Meiling blinked. Although she didn't fully understand, she was always a little clear-headed when she looked at the familiar system interface. She pointed to the light curtain and asked, so I can earn points and then become stronger if I just work? Not bad. Meiling proudly pointed. However, the skill point system of Greenland is very special. The land here has magic power, and the crops that are produced may also have fantasy effects. Others use points to improve their fighting power. You can focus on agriculture and create different things. Agriculture. Meiling lowered her head and looked at the broken bell in her hand, and a thought suddenly appeared in her brain. In her previous life, she was an ordinary office worker, 996 a day, and she had long been tired of the hustle and bustle of the city. It seems good if I could build a garden of my own in this strange world and spend leisurely days. Okay. Then try it. Meiling gritted her teeth and tightened her head, and decided to start with the arbor field in front of her. But ideal is beautiful, but it is actually very skinny. Meiling just slapped her head twice, and she was so tired that she was sweating heavily, and her palms were blisters from the rough wooden handle. Meiling next to her looked at her and said, "Oh, your action is too good. The piercing head is not used like this. Then you teach me." Meiling glared at her without any worries. Tell me. Meiling flew to her with her wings, dancing and striking. Look, the head should be so slanted and forceful, and then, oh. Before she could finish her talk, she accidentally bumped into Meiling's head, and she was taken into the mud and turned into a little clay figure. Ha ha ha. Meiling couldn't help laughing. You goddess is too stupid. What a laugh. This goddess I just slipped a little accidentally. Meiling got up from the mud with a whisper, wiped the dirt on her face, and said stubbornly, you should work quickly, the system prompts you. Meiling looked down and found that a new line of words popped up on the light curtain. Complete the first move, get skill points, 1. Hey, really have a bit of points. Meiling's eyes lit up, although only 1 point, but finally there was hope. She gritted her teeth, enduring the pain in her palm, and continued to swing the hoe, slowly clearing out a small piece of field. Just at that moment, footsteps came from a distance. Meiling looked up and saw several villagers in tattered clothes walking over, led by a middle-aged uncle, with dark skin, full of wind and frost on his face, and a bit of scrutiny in his eyes. Yo, isn't this Meiling? You're really up early to work. The uncle spoke, with a bit of mockery in his tone, I thought you were lazy and slept until the sun was high. The several villagers next to him also laughed, full of contempt in their eyes. Meiling was stunned for a moment, and suddenly a memory that didn't belong to her surged in her mind. Originally, the original owner of this body was a famous good-for-nothing in the village, with the fields abandoned, idling all day, and the villagers had long been unhappy with her. Meiling felt a bit unhappy in her heart, but she still smiled on her face. Uncle, it was my fault in the past, now I want to reform and start anew, seriously farm. You'll see. Reform and start anew. With your broken field, what can you grow? A young villager said with disdain, don't end up wasting effort, not even having food to eat, and still needing us to help. Alright, stop talking. The leading uncle waved his hand, his tone softened a bit, Meiling, I'm the village chief Godong. Since you have the intention to change, we won't stop you. But recently, life in the village is not good, the disease from the neighboring village has spread over, and even Xiao Taidan has fallen ill. If you can really grow something useful, we'll think highly of you. After saying that, Godong led the others to turn and leave, leaving Meiling standing at the edge of the field, gripping the hoe tightly. Disease? Xiao Taidan. She felt a stir in her heart, vaguely thinking this was an opportunity. Feed, Meiling, what is the disease that the village chief just mentioned? Meiling turned her head and asked. Meiling flapped her wings and explained, although the land of the green wild continent has magical power, it can also breed some strange diseases, especially in remote villages with no defense means. Xiao Taidan is a 6-year-old child in the village, recently very sick, with persistent fever, and the villagers have no solution. Then, can the crops I grow cure the disease? Meiling's eyes lit up. Theoretically yes. Meiling nodded, as long as you use skill points to unlock the basic agriculture skill, you can grow crops with weak magical effects, like healing grass. However, you only have 1 point now, unlocking the basic skill requires at least 5 points, still far away. 5 points, right? Then let's do it. Meiling gritted her teeth and decided to go all out. She spent the whole day clearing a small piece of field, exhausting herself with sore waist and back, but the points on the system interface also increased to 5 points. Skill points, 5. Whether to unlock skill, basic planting technique, can plant low-level magic crops. Unlock. Meiling chose to confirm without hesitation. The next second, her mind was filled with a lot of knowledge about planting, techniques, seed selection, fertilization, all clear. She rummaged through the thatched hut and found a few old seeds, planted them according to the new techniques, and then carefully watered them. Next, just wait for the results. Meiling wiped her sweat and sat on the field ridge to catch her breath. Meiling flew to her side, tilting her head and said, "Hey." Meiling ignored the sarcasm and went straight to Xiao Laodan's house. In the room, a haggard woman was guarding the bed, with a little egg lying on the bed, her face turned pale and her breathing was faint. "Sister-in-law, I have grown some grass. I heard that it can cure diseases. Let the eggs try it." Meiling passed the treatment grass. The woman is half believing and half doubted, but looking at the child's appearance, there is no other way to do it, so she can only die as a living horse doctor. She crushed the healing grass and fed it into the mouth of the small egg. After a while, a strange thing happened. The little egg's face gradually turned red and his breathing became calmer. This really works. The woman screamed in surprise, her eyes falling down. Meiling, thank you. Thank you. The villagers outside the house heard the silence and surrounded him. Seeing the little eggs turning, the contempt on their faces turned into surprise. Is this wastewood really a grass for curing diseases? It seems that she is useless either. Meiling listened to these discussions and felt relieved. She turned to look at the country that was not far away and found that the village chief was looking at her with a complicated look, as if he was a little admirable and exploratory. Meiling, it's done well. Gucci walked over and patted her on the shoulder. It seems you are really willing to change. There are still many problems in the village. If you can continue to produce such crops, we can think of ways to make the village well. Miss Minister, don't worry, I will definitely work hard. Meiling smiled and a fire ignited in her heart. She knew that this was just the beginning, her garden dream, and she just started. This chapter ends. Meiling stood in her own field, looking at the seedlings of healing grass that had just sprouted in front of her, and felt both satisfied and a little unwilling to accept it. Although the treatment of grass to help the small eggs relieved the disease and made the villagers look at her with admiration, she knew very well that this was a very remote place for her garden dream. The land of the green land contains magical power, and the creation of healing grass is just the beginning. She wants to try whether she can cultivate higher-level fantasy crops and completely change the dilemma of changing villages. Meiling, what are the higher-level planting skills in the system? I should be able to get enough data now, right? Meiling turned her head to ask the little goddess hanging around her. Meiling was bored and swaying her wings. When she heard this, she immediately came to her spirits. Yes. Let me see. She closed her eyes, felt it in a fake way, and then said excitedly, you have 5 skills points now, and you can just unlock the middle planting technique. This skill can allow you to produce crops with special effects, such as the vigor fruit that improves your physical strength, or the iron vine that strengthens your defense. How to choose a try? Violent fruit. It sounds good. Meiling's eyes lit up. She remembered that the village president Gucci said that the village has not only had illness problems recently. The villagers have been working for a long time and their physical strength is overdrawn, and many people have not been idle in their work. If you can produce crops that improve your physical strength, you will definitely be very busy. Just unblock the intermediate implants. As she finished speaking, the system light curtain in front of her flashed, and the number of points was zeroed. At the same time, there was a lot of new knowledge in the brain, intermediate planting techniques, including how to choose suitable magic seeds, adjust soil magic, control growth cycles, etc. Meiling became more and more excited as she looked at it. She couldn't wait to pull out a bag of old seeds from the broken hut, picked a few that looked quite full, and was ready to do a big job. Hey, don't be anxious. Meiling saw her in a storm and flew over tightly. Intermediate planting is not that simple. Magic crops have high requirements for soil and environment. If you clean the field, your magic power is not stable. If you go directly, it will be 80% lost. If you fail, you will fail. Only after you try it will you know. Meiling curled her lips, not taking Meiling's words seriously. She was impatient in her previous life. She liked to fight quickly, so she had no patience to study it slowly. According to the new knowledge in her brain, she buried the seeds in the soil, sucked a little water, and then used her mind to urge the power of the system to try to accelerate growth. But this time, the fields did not receive the expected click sound, but instead were dead silent. After a long time, a few small buds emerged from the soil, but the leaves were wilted. Don't say that the magic light was shining, even ordinary grass was inferior. Meiling squatted down and looked at it, her face turned black. What's this thing? Why is this kind of virtue? Meiling flew to her, covered her mouth and laughed. I've said it all, the magic of your field has not yet recovered, and the hard growth is a waste seed. Intermediate crops require more patience and careful care. You have to improve the soil first and then cultivate it slowly. Improve the soil. You said it lightly, where can I get the magic? Meiling glared at her with an unhappy look, holding the head in her hand, her face full of unwillingness. Hee, this is simple. Meiling patted her chest, looking confident. The land in the green land has magic power, but your field has been deserted for too long and its magic power has sunk to the ground. You can turn over the soil more, dig up the deep soil, and then move for a few more days, and accumulate points. The system will help you activate the potential of the field. Meiling was half believing and half doubted, but she had no other choice but to do it. She spent a whole day turning over the ground with her head, sweating heavily, and the blisters on her palms were worn out. The system is quite proud of its face, and it rose a little by little. In the evening, it was 3 o'clock. But her results are still unbearable. The vibrant seedlings that were barely sprouting turned out to wither the next day, and their roots were buried in the soil. Meiling looked at this scene and felt like she was eating a boob, and she was so confused. To make matters worse, this incident quickly spread throughout the village. Several villagers who were idle passing by her field, and seeing the withered seedlings, Lima began to sneer. Meiling, is this what you said to change the village? After a few grasses, do you think you are a powerful man? The treatment of grass is probably about the energy. Only then can I try something new and it will be true immediately. Don't get lost, let's go to the field with us, don't do daydreaming all day. These words pierced into Meiling's heart like a knife. She bit her lip and held her head tightly, but she didn't say anything. She knew that counterattack was useless, and only by showing real skills could they block the mouths of these people. But the feeling of frustration in her heart still made her feel a little breathless. Hey, don't listen to them talking nonsense. Meiling saw that her face was not good, so she flew over to comfort her, with a little caution in her voice. It's normal to fail. When this goddess first learned to fly, she fell a few hundred times. Look at me, aren't she flying very well now? She said that she turned a circle in the air, and her wings tilted and she fell into the mud pit next to her, making her face full of soil. Meiling looked at her wolf-like appearance and couldn't help but laugh out loud, and her heart was dissipated a lot. Okay, you fool goddess has said this, I'll try again. Meiling clapped the mud on her hands and cheered up again, but you have to give me some practical suggestions, don't let the light fall on the head. Meiling got up from the mud, wiped her face, and said seriously, Okay, let me tell you, the deep land of the green land contains many magic secrets. Although your field is broken, there may be a magic crystal underneath, which is the magic essence accumulated over the land for many years. As long as you find it, you can instantly improve the magic power of the soil, and everything will be twice the result with half the effort. Magic crystal. How to find that thing? Meiling became interested and her eyes lit up. Dig. The deeper the better. Meiling pointed to the field and said confidently, but be careful, there may be some danger around the crystal, such as magic backlash. Oh, don't look at me, this goddess will not help you dig the ground. There are so many words. Meiling rolled her eyes, picked up the head and started to fuck. Following Meiling's guidance, she picked the center of the field and began to dig down. 1 pound of the other, the soil was turned on, sweat dripped down the head, and her arms were sore, but she gritted her teeth and held it. The system points were also a little accumulated, and by the evening, it had already reached 6 o'clock. Finally, when the pit was dug about 1 meter deep, a flash of blue light flashed from the soil. Meiling looked down and saw a piece of crystal lying at the bottom of the pit, which was transparent and blue fog flowing. She reached for it, and when she touched the crystal, her fingers felt a stinging pain, as if she had been hit by a flash. Hey! What the hell is this? Meiling turned her hand back, and her face was full of surprise. Meiling flew over and shouted excitedly, "It's it! Magic crystal! But its power is a bit violent, you have to neutralize it with the system points to absorb it safely. Quickly, try it with 2 points." Meiling clicked her head and silently recited the power of the regulating system. Sure enough, after the 2-point skill points were consumed, the blue light of the crystal gradually softened, and the stinging sensation disappeared. She carefully picked up the crystal, buried it into the center of the field according to Meiling's instructions, and then used her mind to urge the system to spread the magic of the crystal into the soil. Gee! A low bird sounded, and a faint blue light appeared on the surface of the field. The soil became more moist and fertile, and even a faint fragrance was emitted. Meiling looked at this scene and felt hope in her heart. It should be possible this time, right? She selected a few seeds and carefully laid them according to the skills of intermediate implants, then patiently drank and fertilized them, and no longer rushed to grow. This time, she decided to follow the steps and wait for the crop to grow naturally. A few days passed, and the changes in the field surprised Meiling. The seeds not only sprouted smoothly, but also grew into small trees half a human tall, with red fruits covered with red fruits, and magic light was hidden on the peel. Meiling took a bite and took a bite. She felt a warm current swelling all over her body, and the soreness on her arms disappeared, and she was full of energy. This is the vitality fruit. Great! Meiling jumped up excitedly and said to Meiling, "You stupid goddess, have always helped you a lot." "Humph, that's of course." Meiling put her waist on her waist and proudly slapped her wings. As a result, another unstable thing almost hit the tree, which made Meiling laugh. She picked a basket of vibrant fruit and couldn't wait to get it to the village. The villagers saw her holding something again, but at first they were still disdainful, but when the first big-hearted villagers bit the vitality fruit, their spirits were shaken, and everyone exploded. "This fruit is really refreshing. I have been working for a day and after taking this bite, I feel like I can do it for another day." "Meiling, where did you get this? It's so amazing." "I've given me a few. My boss has been saying that he's tired recently and needs this." For a while, the villagers surrounded Meiling and fought for the vitality, and their attitude was 10 times more than before. Meiling looked at this scene and felt proud. She divided the fruits to everyone and said with a smile, "This is what I have produced, and there will be more good things in the future. Everyone comes to help me with their time. Let's build the village together, how about it?" "Okay. Meiling, we're one." Several young villagers patted their chests and were filled with their faces. At this moment, the village president left, holding a vibrant fruit, his eyes filled with relief. "Meiling, this fruit is really bad. I think you have this ability, and life in the village may really get better. However, I have had some trouble recently, I have to tell you." "What a nuisance." Meiling was stunned and felt something was wrong. The country sniffed his eyebrows and said in a low voice, "The Black Soil Business Group in the next town has recently set its sights on the land in our village. They said there are magical mines under this field and asked us to hand over the land, otherwise it will be strong. They are crowded and magicians sit in the town, so we can't afford to offend them at all. Haizui Business Group. What to snatch our fields?" Meiling became angry when she heard this and clenched her fists. "Ms. Sar, this is the lifeblood of everyone, and we must never let them snatch them away. I know I can't let it go, but what should I do? There are only such people in our village, and there are not even such warriors." The Chinese government spoke with a sigh and was filled with worries. Meiling gritted her teeth and her brain flew quickly. She looked at the vitality fruit in her hand and suddenly shone with a light. "Mister, although we can't beat it, we can think of other ways. This vitality fruit can enhance our physical strength. If everyone eats more and their working efficiency is high, they may be able to train and strengthen their fighting power. Besides, I can still produce other crops in this field, and I may have something to help." The country heard it and his eyes lit up. "Your idea is good. If you can really enhance everyone's strength, you won't be too bullied. So, I'll call the villagers and continue to grow your crops. Let's think of solutions together." "Okay, that's it. Meiling pointed, turned to look at her field, and a desire aroused in her heart. She knew that the threat of the Black Soil Business Group was not a trivial matter, but she would never let her garden dream be destroyed like this. Next, she had to seize the time, accumulate more points, produce more harmful crops, and help the village to overcome this crisis. Meiling, who was beside her, looked at her determined back and couldn't help but mutter, "Oh, this girl is really stubborn." However, the Black Soil Business Group is not easy to mess with, and there will be something good to watch next. After saying that, she accidentally hooked her wings on the branches beside her, and she hung her whole person in the air, tying funny. Meiling heard the silence, looked back and slammed helplessly, "You goddess, can you not always drag your back legs?" "Who is dragging his legs?" "This goddess is, examining the terrain." Meiling explained stubbornly, and the result was even more irritating, which made Meiling laugh again. The golden light under the sunset of the field reflects a piece of newly transformed land. Meiling held her head tightly, looked at the direction of the far village, and made up her mind to make a decision. No matter how strong the Black Soil Business Group was, she had to guard this field and keep everyone's hope. This chapter ends. Meiling stood in the field, looking at the vibrant fruit tree that had just emerged, and she couldn't relax her brain. The Black Soil Merchant Group mentioned by the village president Guofu just mentioned is like a big stone that presses on her heart. She knew that this so-called business group was not a good deal. The village on the edge of the green land was already weak. If they were really targeted by them, there would be no way to fight such people in the village. "Hey, Meiling, what is the Heizu Business Group?" Meiling turned around and asked the little goddess who was floating around her, holding a freshly picked vital fruit in her hand, and her eyebrows were tightly locked. Meiling was bored with her wings and snatching a small flying fleece that had passed by. When she heard this, she stopped and said, "Oh, the Black Soil Business Group is a domineering land belt around the Greenland. On the surface, they are doing land purchases and sales, but in fact they are a group of powerful people who specialize in bullying the village, killing the local market and collecting protection fees. Their team leader is named Hyan, and they have several low-level magic thugs under their command, which ordinary villages can't afford to offend." "It's so striking." Meiling gritted her teeth, and a fire ignited in her heart. "Then why do they target our village? Isn't it just a few broken fields?" "Potato. Hee, you underestimate this place." Meiling flew to her and said mysteriously, "You also know that the land in the green land contains magic power. There is a magic crystal under this field. They must have heard the news and wanted to take the ground away and dig out the crystal to sell a large price. Besides, our village is remote and there is no defense. They are the most convenient to bully." Meiling heard it. Her face became increasingly difficult to see. She lowered her head and looked at the land under her feet, then at the busy figures of the villagers from far away, feeling unwilling. In her previous life, she was a young employee and had to endure anything, but now she finally had the opportunity to start over and create a garden dream that belongs to her. How could she let a group of strong tragedies be ruined? "No, we can't let them succeed." Meiling clenched her fists and said to Meiling, "What other bad skills does the system have? I have to tighten my skills that can help, and I can't sit and wait." Meiling patted her small breasts and said with a smile, "That's right. Let this goddess look." She closed her eyes and responded to the feeling of the fake, and then said excitedly, "You have 6 skill points now, and you can just unravel an advanced skill, group buffing art. This skill can allow you to produce magic crops with range effects, such as wari grass. Those who eat it can improve their fighting power in a short time, and even ordinary villagers can have the courage and strength to fight with others." Warring grass. It sounds good. Meiling's eyes lit up, and the scene of the villagers resisting together instantly appeared in her brain. She said without hesitation, "Just it, unblock the mass gain technique." As she finished speaking, the system light curtain flashed, the 6-point skill points were zeroed, and a new stream of knowledge rushed into the brain: how to use group gain techniques, how to choose the seeds of war spirit grass, how to adjust the magic soil, and even how to control the effect range and time of the herbs, so clear. Meiling became more and more excited as she looked at it. Lima dug out the last few precious seeds from the broken hut, picked the most abundant ones, and prepared to do a big job. Hey, don't be impatient. Meiling saw her storm and flew over and said, the war grass is a high-level crop, and it has a very high demand for magic. You have to use the magic crystals in the field as the introduction and cultivate them slowly, otherwise 80% will wither again. I know, I'm patient this time. Meiling curled her lips. Although she was not convinced, she still followed the knowledge of the new skills. She first dug out a small piece of magic crystal, crushed it and mixed it into the soil, then carefully buried the seeds, poured water, and carefully adjusted the soil magic concentration. This time, she no longer rushes to use the system to promote growth, but waits patiently. In the next few days, Meiling almost didn't rest much. She turned the ground and sucked water during the day, and at night she had to study the details of mass gain. She was so tired that she felt sore and had a back pain, but the system was also a little accumulated, reaching 4 o'clock. The war in the spirited grass seeds in the field sprouted smoothly, growing into a half-human high green grass, with its pointed leaves, emitting a flaming light, which looked full of strength. It's done. Meiling looked at this scene and clenched her fists excitedly. She took a small piece of leaves and tried to chew it. When she felt a heated blood rushing her brain, she felt her body full of energy, and her hands holding the head were stable for a few minutes. Hee, the effect is good, right? Meiling flew beside her and said proudly, the war spirit grass can stimulate people's potential. If ordinary people eat it, their internal strength will increase greatly in a short time, and their courage will double. However, the effect is only half a time, and after time, they will have a little power, so they have to challenge the time and use it. Half a minute, it's over. Meiling pointed at her head, and she had already started to figure out how to use this war to help the village. She was planning to go to the village chief's house to discuss solutions, but suddenly a rapid sound of footsteps came from afar. Then several villagers ran over in panic, full of shock. Meiling, no good. The people from the Haida merchants group are here. They are carrying more than 10 people and a magician, saying that we will hand over the fields within 3 days, otherwise we will flatten the village. What? It's coming soon. Meiling felt nervous in her heart, turned to look at the entrance of the far village, and saw a team of horses walking towards this side. She was leading a tall squid with flesh on her face, holding an iron stick in her hand, and following more than a dozen people like thugs, one of whom was a thin man in a grey robe, holding a short staff in his hand, and magic waves were scattered on her body. Let's go and have a look. Meiling gritted her teeth and greeted several villagers, carrying a small bundle of fighting grass that had just been harvested, and headed straight to the entrance of the village. Meiling also followed with her wings and muttered in a low voice, "Oh, this is so irritating. The grey robe must be a low-level magician, who can set fireballs, and ordinary people can't stand it. You have to bear it if you can't bear it." Meiling replied in a low voice, her face full of stubbornness. When we arrived at the entrance of the village, the country was already standing there with several powerful villagers, both sides were in a stalemate. The leader of the Haizui merchants group, namely Haiyan, was knocking on the ground with a stick, and his face was full of impatience. "Old man in China, don't toast or eat wine. What's the point of guarding this broken village? If you hand over the fields, I can still leave you a way to survive, otherwise, don't blame my subordinates for being merciless. You black soil business group is too domineering. This is our ancestors' land, what do you want to give you?" The country was so angry that her face was blue, but her language obviously lacked its foundation. After all, the few young people in the village who could fight the most were holding the iron horns, and they were not the opponents of these well-trained thugs on the other side. Ordinary. The jungle is strong, do you understand? Haiyan sneered and turned to look at the grey-robed magician next to him. Grey style, give them a look to let them know the next scene of resistance. The grey-scared one's head was raised, and a few spells were recited on his mouth. A small fireball appeared on the tip of the staff. Although it was not big, it was hot and waves that made several villagers retreat. The fireball hit a dead tree at the entrance of the village with a bang, and instantly lit the trees, and the firelight made the faces white. Did you see it? This is the magician's tragedy. If you don't hand over the land, the next one will be your house. Hyan roared proudly and approached with his subordinates. Stop! At this moment, Meiling rushed out, stared at Hyan in front of the country, and said, if you want to snatch the local area, you have to ask whether we answer it. You can't bully this village at will. Yi, where is the little girl? She's not a little girl. Hyan looked at Meiling up and down, seeing her wearing a torn robbed shirt and holding a bundle of weeds in her hand. He couldn't help laughing, just hate you. What can you do with a few broken grasses? Don't worry, go ahead. Broken grass. You'll know after you try. Meiling snorted coldly and said in a low voice to the country, Ms. Sar, let's fight with them if you bring everyone some food. She said that she divided the fighting spirit into the villagers around her, each with a small handful. Gucci was stunned for a moment, but when he saw Meiling's eyes were calm, he didn't ask much, so he took the grass leaf and took a bite. When other villagers saw this, they also ate it. The next second, a miracle happened. Everyone felt a heated blood pouring into their hearts, their body was filled with strength, and their eyes became sharp, and their hands holding the ironclad never shook again. What is this? How do I think I can beat 10? A young villager screamed in surprise, full of joy. Don't waste your time and protect the village. Meiling shouted, rushing towards Black Rock. Although she had no experience in fighting, the effect of the fighting grass greatly increased her strength and she pulled her head toward the Black Rock. Looking for death. Hyan did not expect that the villagers dared to resist, so he roared and raised his iron stick to meet him. The two weapons collided and made a sound of crispness. Although Meiling's arms were numb by the shock, she did not take a step back. The villagers next to him also rushed up and wrestled with the thugs of the Black Soil business group with their irons and heads. For a while, the village entrance was a group. Although the villagers had no war, the blessing of the war spirit grass greatly increased their strength and courage, and they caught the other side off guard. Gucci also joined the battle, holding a thick wooden stick, knocked down a thug with his head, and shouted, brothers, guard the village. You can't let them snatch our lives. The old guys are really capable. Hyan gritted his teeth and shouted to the Grey Wind, don't be stunned, burn them. Grey Fong sneered, raised his short staff, and another group of fireballs gathered, flying towards Meiling. Meiling saw the situation and felt nervous. She knew that she could not hide and could only resist. But at this moment, a scream suddenly came from mid-air, oh my, don't even think about hurting my time traveler. It's Meiling. The little goddess rushed over with her wings, and a green light suddenly lit up in the light ring on her brain, forming a small shield that was pressed in front of Meiling. The fireball hit the shield and made a sound. Although the shield shattered in an instant, the power of the fireball was weakened by most of the time. Only the remaining heat waves rubbed against Meiling's shoulders, burning the corners of her clothes. Meiling, you stupid goddess, have you been fucking something serious? Meiling was still shocked and shouted as she hurried the little man in the air. This goddess is not a dry one. Meiling said with her waist and panting, but my divine power is limited, so I can only help you. Next, it's up to you. I'll try to get rid of that magician, otherwise everyone will be finished. Meiling clicked her head and her brain flew quickly. She knew that Grey Wind was the greatest threat and he had to be solved first. She turned to look at the villagers beside her and shouted, don't fight hard, concentrate on the one in the grey robe. As long as he falls, the rest will be able to deal with it. I understand. Guotian roared, carrying several young villagers, and thrust into the Grey Wind with the attack of the thug. Meiling also took advantage of the trouble to the side, and took advantage of the Grey Wind to chant the curse and suddenly slammed it on his wrist. Ah! Grey Fong felt pain, the short staff in his hand fell to the ground, the magic was broken, and the whole person stumbled back. When the villagers saw this, the military was greatly boosted. Several people rushed up and pressed the gray on the ground, causing a solid foundation. Gray Feng, you are such a waste. Haiyan saw the magician being subdued and his face was so blue, but he himself was surrounded by the country and several villagers and could not be wiped out. Although the effect of war grass is limited, the villagers are ruthless and suppress the thugs of the Black Soil Business Group. Haiyan, roll out of our village. If you dare to come and fight, you won't be so good next time. Meiling stood in front of Haiyan, holding her head tightly, and her face was full of coldness. Haiyan gritted his teeth and stared at her. Although he was unwilling to give up, his current appearance was stronger than others. He could only say hatefully, okay, you have a kind of thing. This is not over, let's take a look. After saying that, he retreated with several of his remaining subordinates, and the gray wind was wiped out. Seeing the people from the Haizui business group go away, the village entrance shouted. The villagers hugged each other, and their faces were all joys after the disaster. The effect of war grass has gradually faded away. Although everyone was a little weak, their eyes were filled with unprecedented confidence. Meiling, do a pretty job. Guichi walked over and patted her shoulder, with relief on her face. If you hadn't created this war, our village would have been finished today. From now on, you will be the hero of our village. Yes, Meiling, we looked down on you before, so blind. A young villager was embarrassed to hold his head. For the opposite, what's going on in the future? Even if we ask us, let's do the village well together. Another villager also agreed. Meiling looked at everyone's warm eyes, her heart was warm. She smiled and said, don't tell me, this is the result of everyone's efforts together. Although the Black 2 Merchants group has retreated, they will definitely not be able to rest. We have to take advantage of the time now to gather more useful crops to protect the village. That's right. Meiling, we all hear you no matter what you say. The villagers spoke in unison, their eyes full of trust. Meiling, who was next to her, flew over and said proudly, hee, have you seen it? This goddess's time traveler is a traitor. But I just had that divine shield, right? You're just a slut, you almost hit yourself. Meiling looked at her without saying a word and talked. When Meiling heard this, she was so angry that her face was red. She tilted her wings and wanted to turn back. As a result, she accidentally bumped into the tree branch next to her, which made everyone laugh. As the sun sets in the sunset, the scorched tree at the entrance of the village is swaying in the wind, as if it is also witnessing the rebirth of the village. Meiling stood in the crowd, looking at her field far away, and her heart ignited greater hope. She knew that this victory was just the beginning, and more challenges were waiting for her next. But as long as she has this land and these partners who are fighting on her shoulders, she is not afraid of anything. Okay, everyone rest first. Tomorrow morning, we will gather the fields together to create more fighting grass and other crops. Meiling said loudly, and the sound was full of fighting spirit. Okay. I heard Meiling. The villagers kept responding and heard the sound of the entrance of the village. As the country looked at this scene, there was a hint of relief in its eyes. He said to Meiling in a low voice, girl, you really bring hope to the village. No matter what troubles are in the future, everyone in the village will stand with you. Meiling pointed and said with a smile, Ms. Sar, don't worry, I will definitely make this village a real farming place and let everyone have a good life. As night fell, the lights in the village lit up, and Meiling returned to her broken hut. Although she was tired, her heart was full of strength. She lay on the hard wooden bed, calculating the next plan. The threat of the Black Soil Merchants group has not yet been solved. She has to seize the amount of time and accumulate more skills, and create stronger magic crops. Only when Murata becomes truly powerful can her garden dream be truly realized. Hey, Meiling, what other harmful skills does the system have? Let me give you a clear idea. Meiling turned her head to ask the little goddess hanging around her. Meiling was playing with her little wings boredly. When she heard this, she smiled, oh, there are many skills. For example, the defense and end of the world can produce magical vines that protect the village, and the blessings collection can double the crop yield. But these all require more points, and you have to continue working hard. Work to work, who are you afraid? Meiling turned over and sat up, her eyes full of struggle. She knew that the road was still long, but as long as you go step by step, you will have a harvest day. Outside the window, the moonlight was on the field, and the red light of the war grass flashed slightly, as if it was illuminating the fire of hope for the future of the village. This chapter ends. Meiling stood at her own field, watching a tiny ray of war grass flashing under the moonlight, and her heart was both satisfied and a larger group of fire. The victory of retiring the Black Soil Business Group has greatly increased her confidence and the villagers, but she is very clear that this is just the beginning. Although the Black Soil Business Group has retreated at a time, their threat is like a cloud and may be compressed at any time. If you want to truly defend the village and realize her dream, you will only rely on fighting grass and a few small sports far away. Hey, Meiling, what do you mean by the blocking art and blessing art? Do you just want to unlock it? Meiling turned her head and asked the little goddess floating around her, with a hint of anxiety in her voice. Meiling was bored with her wings and snaking a small flying fleece that had passed by. When she heard this, she thought about it with her head and thought about it, then said excitedly, "Oh, the prevention and boundary art is 15 o'clock, and the recruiting blessing technique is more expensive, 20 o'clock. But there is also a higher level skill called land blessing skill requires 30 points, but the effect is absolutely amazing. It can directly increase the magic power of the entire land, double the yield and effect of all crops, and form a natural magic barrier to protect the village from invasion by foreign enemies. How about this? Is this the most suitable for your wishes?" 30 points. Meiling bit her lip and looked down at the only 4 points skill points on the system light curtain, and felt a little worried. But as soon as she heard the magic barrier, and double production, her eyes lit up again. "Okay, just focus on this land blessing skill. I have to tighten the amount of production and protect the village in full. Hee, this is like my time traveler." Meiling patted her small breasts and said proudly, "But 30 points is not a small number, you have to work hard. This goddess suggests that you start by improving crop yield first, with a variety of vitality fruits and healing grasses, helping the villagers to restore their physical strength and smooth the number of consumption points. Stop talking, just do it." Meiling rolled her eyes, held her head tightly, and her brain had already started to calculate the next plan. She knew that time didn't wait for anyone, and the Black 2 business group might be back at any time, and she must keep a tight grip on every day. In the following days, Meiling almost didn't have much rest. During the day, she brought the villagers to turn the ground, sow, and water together. At night, she had to study the details of implants. She was so tired that she felt sore and had a back pain, but the system was also a little accumulating. The villagers were infected by her fucking and took the initiative to join in, and there were busy figures everywhere in the fields. The production of vibrant fruits and healing grasses has been improved step by step, which not only makes everyone more energetic, but the atmosphere in the village has become very lively. "Meiling, your fruit is really useful. I ate too and I don't feel tired after working for a day," a young villager said with a smile, holding a red and vibrant fruit in his hand. "Yes, there is also this healing grass. Lao Wang next door coughed so hard the day before yesterday. After taking 2 bites, he was mostly cured the next day." Another big man also agreed, feeling grateful. Meiling heard these words, her heart was warm and she said with her hands on her mouth, "Don't just express me, this is the result of everyone's efforts together. Let's add more exercises and make the village better." The villagers were busy and their enthusiasm for sucking. Gucci watched this scene and walked to Meiling and said with relief, "Good, you really brought hope to the village. If I continue like this, we can not only be self-sufficient, but also sell crops outside and change silver to improve our lives." Selling outside? Meiling was stunned, and suddenly a light shone in her brain. "Ms. Sar, this idea is good. If it can attract businessmen from outside, our village can make money and expand its influence, making the Black Soil Business Group dare not act easily. Yes, that's the reason. Gucci patted his thighs and his eyes lit up. But our village is remote and it's not easy for outsiders to find it. You have to think of ways to attract more special things to attract their attention. Meiling pointed her head and had an idea in her mind. She turned to Meiling and said, "Hey, the idiot goddess, are there any crops in the system that can attract people? It's best to be rare things, the kind that you haven't seen outside." Meiling held her wings, closed her eyes and pretended to feel it, and then said excitedly, "Yes, yes, yes. There is a magic crop called star flower that can emit colorful light at night. It is very beautiful, and can also purify the air. It can relax after hearing it. This kind of flower is rarely seen outside, and it only takes 10 o'clock to unblock it. You have now finished 8 o'clock, and you can grow it in 2 more days. Star flower. It sounds good." Meiling's eyes lit up, and she made up her mind, I'll take it a little longer and tighten it to 10 o'clock. In the next 2 days, Meiling took the villagers and worked day and night, and forced the points to 10 o'clock. She unraveled the star flower planting technique without hesitation. After a lot of new knowledge was added to her brain, Lima dug out a few special seeds with magic from deep in the field and carefully planted them. This time, she used the magic crystal fragments she found before to mix into the soil to ensure that the star flower can grow smoothly. A few days later, a small flower half a human tall grew from the field. At night, it really shone colorful light, like a starry sky falling on the field, so beautiful that people can't open their eyes. The villagers were stunned and surprised. "Meiling, this flower is so beautiful. How did it come out?" A little girl came over, full of stars. "Hee, secret." Meiling smiled and sold a treasure, and then turned to the country, "Miss Sar, this star flower can definitely attract outsiders. Let's release the news and say that there are rare treasures in the village to see if it can attract businessmen." At the head of the country, Lima arranged for several young people to go to nearby towns to spread the news. After a few days, several foreign businessmen heard the news of Xinhua and came to the village with curiosity. When they saw the shady sea of flowers in the field with their eyes, Lima was shocked. "This flower is really a wonder. I want to buy a batch and go back. If I start a flower show, I will definitely make a big profit." A fat businessman rubbed his hands excitedly, his face full of business. "Don't let it go, I want it too. If this flotation can make people relaxed, it will definitely sell the precious people to make peace with the gods." Another businessman was not willing to be outdone and fought for the bid. Meiling watched this scene and was filled with flowers in her heart. She discussed with the Chinese government, set a reasonable price, sold part of the star flower, and exchanged a large silver. These money not only repair houses and buy tools in the village, but also allows everyone to live a better life. The villagers were holding the silver slap they received and couldn't hold their mouths in their mouths, so they were even more grateful to Meiling. "Meiling, I didn't expect you to really bring the village. We looked down on you before, so blind." A boss apologized with red eyes, holding her hand. "Don't mention the past. We are a family now. Just build the village together." Meiling smiled and held her hand, making up her mind to take advantage of this force to continue to generate points, unblock the land blessing skills, and make the village prosperous. In the next few months, Meiling and the villagers worked hard, and there were more and more fantasy crops in the fields. In addition to star flower, vital fruit, healing grass and war grass, she also unlocked the vibrating fruit that can enhance her vision and the Mia's vine that can drive her. Each crop became the handicraft of foreign merchants. The reputation of the village is getting farther and farther away, and the travelers and merchants coming are in danger of being connected. The originally broken small village gradually turns into a hot market, and the thatched huts have also been transformed into solid brick-tiled houses, and the villagers' faces are full of smiles. At the same time, Meiling's system points were also accumulating rapidly, and finally reached 30 o'clock one morning. She looked at the numbers on the light curtain, her heart beat fast, and turned to Meiling, the idiot goddess. It's done. 30 o'clock, unblock the land blessing skill. Hee, I've been waiting for this moment. Meiling urged her wings with urgency. Hurry, unlock it. This is a big move, which can make your garden dream fly directly. Meiling took a deep breath and silently recited confirmation. The next second, a golden light flashed through the system light curtain, and the 30-point skill points were cleared. At the same time, a vast amount of knowledge rushed into the brain: how to use the land blessing skill, how to adjust the deep magic power of the land, how to form a protection barrier, and how to allow crops to absorb more magic power, so it is clear. She closed her eyes and pressed her hands on the soil in the middle of the field, silently urging the power of the system. Gee! The sound of a low bird sounded, and the whole field suddenly shone with golden light. The soil became more fertile, and the air was filled with a heavy magical breath. The crops far away seemed to have been injected with vitality, and they grew taller in an instant, and they became more full, with crystal light flashing on the leaves. What's even more magical is that a translucent magic barrier rose around the village, like a huge light shield, wrapping the entire village, scattering a gentle and indestructible force. What is this? The villagers were stunned when they watched this scene, and even forgot to do the work in their hands. Meiling, what are you fucking again? How did you make such a big and tranquil? Gucci ran over and asked in shock. Meiling wiped her sweat and explained with a smile, my village chief, this is my new skill called land blessing. From now on, our field magic has increased greatly, and the crop yield and effect will double. And this barrier can protect the village from foreign enemies. Whether it is the Black Soil Business Group or other efforts, you have to think about it if you want to come in. Great! Our village is so safe now. The country heard it, and was so excited that it slapped its thighs, turning its head and shouted to the villagers, brothers and sisters, have you heard it? Meiling has made great contributions to us again. Our lives will only get better and better in the future. The villagers burst into shouts, surround Meiling, expressing her skills in a lingering manner. Meiling looked at everyone's excitement and felt warm. She knew that this land, this group of people, had become her real home. Hey, don't just express her. Is this goddess also a contribution, okay? Meiling flew to Meiling and said discomfortably, if it weren't for my guidance, how could you be like this broken village today? Okay, you're the most evil. Meiling smiled helplessly and joked, but when can you, such a fool goddess, not hit the tree? When Meiling heard this, she was so angry that her face was red. She tilted her wings and wanted to turn back. As a result, she accidentally bumped into the fruit tree next to her, which made the villagers laugh. Meiling rubbed her brain and said, this is this goddess examining the terrain. Humph, what do you know? With a smile, the atmosphere in the village was even more harmonious. With the land blessing skills, the yield of the fields has increased rapidly, and the types and effects of fantasy crops have become stronger and stronger, attracting more foreign merchants and travelers. A market was built around the village, and the roads were flat and spacious. The originally remote village finally became a true agricultural sacred place. Every day, people come to buy rare treasures such as star flowers and vibrant fruits. The more silver pieces there are in the village, the more they are, and the villagers are blushing and happy. One evening, Meiling stood on the newly built lookout at the entrance of the village, looking at the fields of harvested fields far away, feeling full of satisfaction. The sun is on the land, and the golden light is flashing, as if it has put a glorious layer of her garden dream. Next to it, the country walked over, holding a rough map in his hand, and said seriously, Meiling, the village is developing so well now. I discussed with a few old brothers and planned to formulate a long-range plan. What plan? Meiling turned around and asked curiously. The map of the country's entrepreneurship is pointing to the lines drawn above and said, look, our village is now a farming place, and the surrounding towns are buying things, and transportation is becoming more and more important. I want to build a few roads to lead directly to several nearby cities to facilitate business travel. In addition, there are more and more young people in the village. I want to build a school to teach them planting and magic knowledge, so that our skills can be passed on. What do you think? My village chief, this idea is great. Meiling heard it, her eyes lit up, and she said with a tinge, building roads can make the village more popular, and building a school can cultivate talents. In the future, our village will not only be a farming place, but also a cognitive place. I support this, let's think of a way together. I'll feel relieved with you. Guachi smiled and patted her on the shoulder, his eyes filled with relief. Meiling, it's up to you to be able to be in the village today. You have transformed from a wastewood from outside to a farm tycoon, taking everyone to a good life. I think you are no longer an ordinary farmer, but the real leader of our village. Misery, don't tell me, I just want to let everyone do a good job. Meiling slapped her head embarrassedly, but a warm current surged in her heart. She knew that she was no longer the timid young member of Nono in her previous life, nor the helpless waste she had just traveled through time. The hard work and growth over the past few days have made her truly find her value and won everyone's trust. At this time, Meiling flew over with her wings, and put her waist on her waist and said proudly, "Hee, have you heard it? This goddess time traveler is a traitor. Meiling, you are a big shot now, and I, the goddess, also benefited from it, and I feel that I am a lot more confident." Confidence is self-confidence, it's just that the clumsy foot has not changed. Meiling talked, glanced at the crooked light ring on Meiling's brain, and couldn't help laughing. What are you talking about? Where is this goddess stupid? Meiling was so angry that her face was red, and she was about to turn back with her wings. As a result, she accidentally hit the wooden column of the observation deck and fell to the sky. Meiling and Guiji looked at each other and couldn't help laughing. Okay, get up, don't always show us tricks. Meiling smiled and helped Meiling up, turned her head to look at the field far away, and said lightly, "Meiling, thank you. Although you are so kind, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been to this day." Do you know that this goddess's wrinkle is hurt? Meiling patted the gray on her skirt. Although she was proud of her mouth, she had a flash of emotion on her face. She murmured in a low voice, "Actually, when I chose you, it was because you had a slut that was unwilling to accept it. I am also very proud of this goddess when I saw you bring the village up." Meiling heard it, her heart warmed up, and she smiled and pointed her head a little. She turned to the village, the lights and the laughter of the villagers came from afar, and the fantasy crops in the fields were shining in the night, and everything was like a warm painting. At this moment, she finally realized that her garden dream not only created a good place, but also allowed everyone around her to live a happy life. A few months later, the long-distance planning of the village began to be implemented, the road was built, and the school was built. Young people learned planting and magical knowledge in it, making the village more prosperous. Although Meiling still likes to go to the fields to work, she also began to help the country manage villages, arrange crop distribution, businessmen cooperation, and even bring teams to the surrounding towns to promote specialties in villages. Her name has gradually spread throughout the green land and has become synonymous with agricultural tycoon. Numerous people came to her and asked her for the secret of planting. The Black Soil Business Group, after hearing that the village had a magic barrier and a powerful fantasy crop, never dared to act rashly again, and even took the initiative to send people to seek peace, expressing its willingness to cooperate in buying and selling crops. Although Meiling didn't like them, she still agreed to cooperate for the sake of the village and set a strict rule so that they dared not have any bad intentions anymore. On a clear afternoon, Meiling sat on the edge of the field, holding a vibrant fruit she had just picked in her hand, and took a bite, making her mouth full of sweetness. She looked at the busy figures of the villagers from afar, and Meiling was squeezing her wings in the air and she couldn't help but sneer at the corner of her mouth. The country walked over from the side and said with a smile, "Meiling, the village is so good now. What are the plans for the next one?" Meiling thought for a while and said with a smile, "My village chief, I plan to open a few new fields to try higher-level magic crops to help more people live a good life. Also, I want to spread our planting techniques to a farther place so that the entire green land can know that agriculture can also change its fate." Good ambition. The country was very happy, and he was filled with relief. With you leading the head, the future of our village is definitely not bad. As the sun sets west, the golden light in the fields is flashing, and the laughter of the village is flying in the wind. Meiling leaned against the ridge of the field, closed her eyes, feeling the fragrance of the soil and the slightness of the scent of the wind, and her heart was filled with peace and satisfaction. From a wastewood to an agricultural tycoon, from confusion to determination, she finally found her own home on this strange land. Her garden dream has been fully realized.